so this section here, it's called density and cost. There's lots of other things happening in here too. Those are just the two most common things that happen. This is when you have the volume and you need to do something with it. You're buying, maybe you're filling up a pool, or you're maybe painting a wall, or you're doing something of that nature. I don't know how much something weighs. So you need to be able to take a volume and turn it into something else. So first of all, right here, you'll see at the top of this, there's two little formulas, all right, for density. So density is equal to mass over volume. If you've taken a science class, you probably have heard that at some point before. That's for three-dimensional objects. Two-dimensional objects can have a density. It's usually called a population density, to show how tightly packed together, like people or animals or something is. That's amount over area. Those are not foolproof. There can be other things that get put into there. The big thing is three-dimensional density problems have to do with volume, and two-dimensional density problems have to do with area. You could have a three-dimensional density problem where it's talking about bacteria in some sort of shape that's three-dimensional, and then you would do amount over volume. I don't think you could have a mass over area problem, but actually you probably could have a mass over area problem if it was a real thin piece of metal that really only had an area. So we've got to be able to mess around with these and really think about them. This whole entire section and the next one, where I added 3 more problems, density volume version 2, you're going to have to think about these. All right. So you can use the density equals mass over volume or amount over area to kind of cross multiply, figure things out. If it asks you straightforward density, you do a division, but think about it in that way. A lot of times what's going to happen is you're going to have to find the cost or the weight or something like that. So these two last little things are things I've added in recently, kind of as little separate notes. When you're finding the cost, first of all, please, if you're finding the cost, round to the nearest cent, which means 2 decimal places. I don't know how many times I see someone do a cost problem and say to me, listen, say what to round to. And then I say, how many decimals does money have? And then sometimes they look at me like I'm an insane person. Money has 2 decimals. Okay. The second thing is, a lot of times you're going to come to problems and you're not going to use the density equals mass over volume formula. You're just going to say, oh, well, I'm going to divide this, or I'm going to multiply this, which is okay if you understand what you're doing. What I tell everyone is, if you're unsure of whether you should multiply or divide at the end of the problem in the last step, multiply. If you're guessing, multiply. Out of 9 problems or 10 problems, 9 of them are probably multiply. It's rare that you have to divide at the end of the problem. So please don't divide. For some reason, everybody's like, well, I'll divide. And I think it's because it gives them a smaller number. And they don't want a gigantic number. When you're talking about how much water weighs, water is heavy. So if you're filling a pool and it wants to know how many pounds it weighs, it's going to be incredibly heavy. All right. If it wants to buy a huge amount of sand or concrete or something to fill something up, it's expensive. It's going to cost a lot of money. So don't think that you always have to divide because it gives you a smaller number. A lot of times you're going to have to multiply. You can avoid that by just using the density formulas that are up there. Take your time with this section. Try a lot of the different problems. Maybe do 1 and then 3 and then 5 and skip around a little bit. But please make sure you're trying. The density V2 file is 3 of the most recent regions problems if you want to see the kind of questions that they asked in the regions exam. The beginning of this particular file, the questions are things that don't show up often on tests and quizzes and things in regions exams because they're just trying to get you ready to try some of these problems out. So if you want to skip right to problems you're going to see, maybe go to number 4 or 5 and start there. All right.